All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 2026 Water Conditions Monitoring Committee. My name is Emily Adrid, and I'm with the CWCB. Today we have our presentations from the Colorado Climate Center and NRCS, and then we'll end our meeting with updates from local water providers and managers. But before we start, I just wanted to make a quick announcement and say that CWCB staff have met with the WCMC agency partners, which include the Department of Natural Resources, the Division of Water Resources, the Colorado Department of Ag, the Department of Local Affairs, and the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management internally to evaluate the next steps to move towards activating the state's drought task force. Um, Usually, state action around drought response occurs in summer or in the growing season, but because of the historically low snowpack and high temperatures, we are considering what drought task force activation could look like earlier in the year. So that is an update from the state side. Just wanted to provide you all with an update, and I'll continue to provide updates as we go along this year. So with that, I will pass it over to Russ to start us out.
Good, good. Thanks, Emily. All right, get this shared here. All right. Look okay on your end?
Yes.
Cool. And remind me, what's my end time on the agenda? I looked at it and now I've already forgotten.
Yeah, around
Just make sure I don't
10:00,
go long.
yeah, around 10:10-ish.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. I don't think I'll go that long, but I will monitor the time to make sure that I don't. Thanks. Morning, everybody. I will be giving our climate update for this month's meeting. And we'll just kick right off. So we'll start off with the picture of where we're at in water year 2026 thus far. Picture on the right here was taken by my colleague here at CSU, Henry Regis, up in Rocky Mountain National Park just on Sunday, and there's not a lot of snow there in places where there normally would be snow, or more snow at least at this time in February. Um, Okay, I'm going to start off with these graphics, which have a lot of information on them, but I'll give you a moment to take a look. It's a little bit different look than sometimes we've shown in the past. So the top shows for the water year thus far, each day of the water year. For the temperature with respect to average. And this is averaged over the whole state. So it's, obviously local conditions can vary here in Colorado. And then below that is the complete months and where they ranked, and what the temperature departure from average was there. And so probably what jumps out to you here on these is a lot of red bars on that graph at the top, representing days that are warmer than average, and not very many blue bars. It's a few of them, but not very many. And so this aligns with the start of the water year being just exceptionally warm. Uh, November was very warm, third warmest. December was extremely warm, the warmest on record statewide. January was warm for most of the month, but we had the cold blast near the end that made it not record setting. And then February until the storm this last weekend is also much warmer than average. And the last few days of the month are also going to be much warmer than average, as we'll take a look at. So that kind of gives us a picture of where we're at in terms of the temperature up to this point in the water year. And then this is what it looks like if we look at the rank over the 4 complete months from October through January. It is the warmest first 4 months of a water year by and not even close. Um, so statewide average. So everywhere in this like brown color here is the record warmest, and then these red colors, it was probably this either the second or third warmest October through January period. So it's in this average across the state, 5 degrees warmer than the 30-year average, and 1.7 degrees warmer than the previous warmest first 4 months. So this is breaking the record by a huge margin. And obviously, February has continued this, as we'll look at as we go here. Um, so that I think this is probably the big story. Obviously, we'll talk about precipitation, and Nagam will talk about snowpack. But in terms of like breaking records, this is where the records are being broken is with respect to the temperature over the last several months. Here is a similar picture now for precipitation. Again, averaged across the state, so local conditions may vary. And it just shows where we're at in terms of either being a surplus in precipitation or a deficit in precipitation for the water year up to this point. And so we can see the water year started off quite wet with the heavy rain and floods in southwest Colorado in October. And then it's just been we've been growing the deficit for all the time since then. Along the bottom here indicates the individual days, like statewide average precipitation that goes with this axis on the right in inches. So you can see the recent storm here from the last few days that shows up there. So the browns are getting a little bit less brown over the last few days, but still a really big deficit across the state in terms of precipitation through mid-February. And you can see where the individual months ranked there. October a bit wetter than average, and then November, December, January drier than average across the state. And here is, again, the first 4 months of the water year where they ranked in terms of precipitation from October through January. The browns here are where it was drier than average. You see a lot of the mountain areas have been drier than average for those first 4 months of the water year. Also, Front Range and northeastern plains drier than average, parts of southern Colorado. And then the places that got that really heavy rain in October, that's mostly what you're seeing here in the greens is just, that was so much rain in those storms in October that they're still well above average for precipitation for the water year, even though the snowpack, as we'll see, is not doing that great. So yeah, so that's where that stands. 33rd driest first 4 months of the water year. So certainly below average, but not record dry by any means. And this is the same, but as a percent of average rather than a ranking. And so we can see again, a lot of Front Range, Northeast Colorado in the only 30 to 50% of average precipitation over the last 4 months. But remember, the average for October through January isn't all that much in Northeast Colorado. And then some spots that are still, 150, 170% of average for those 4 months. Again, mostly from the big rains back in October. Okay, we'll take a look back at January. January seems like a long time ago now, but we'll take a quick look at our monthly summary. If you want to dive further into the monthly summary, there's the link, and you can subscribe to those. It was a warm month, and obviously the low snowpack was kind of the big story there, which we'll hear about from NRCS in a bit. This was January temperature, which was not nearly as extreme as December, but certainly above average in most parts of the state, and some parts quite a bit warmer than average. Precipitation for just January, dry in the mountains, dry in the Northeast Plains, dry Southwest Colorado. A big snowstorm that seems like a long time ago now, January 8th and 9th around Colorado Springs, had over a foot of snow there. And there were a couple other decent snowstorms in southeastern Colorado in January. So those areas were above average for precipitation for the month. All right, so let's summarize this in terms of these quadrant charts. This is just for January. So if you're not familiar with these, the horizontal axis is precipitation. Average is the gray dash line here. The vertical axis is temperature, average for that month. So that the 30-year average is the dash line here, and then all the individual years are shown. 20 January 2026 is the star here, which is in the warm and dry quadrant, averaged across the state, but not as extreme as a lot of other years in terms of being warm and dry as far as Januaries go. Where things start to look more extreme is now that we zoom out to the water year. So this is for October through January, the 4 full months of the water year. And you can see again for temperature, like 2026 just is like so far above any of the other first 4 months of the water year. And these were also some very warm years, 1981, 1934, 2018, 2022. It's way above all of those. Not quite as dry as some of those years. Again, a lot of that owing back to the heavy rain in October. And so if we remove October and we look at just November through January, and now this is just for the western slope. So this is the basically all the parts of the state that end up draining into the Colorado River. So it's almost all of western Colorado, with the exception of like the southern mountain, like this parts of the San Juans that go into the Rio Grande. Um, so now we see 2026 up there, way up there in the warm and dry quadrant with 2 other years. So those 3 years all stand alone way up here in the warm and dry quadrant in terms of November through January 2026, the warmest of the three, and then 2018 and 1981 up there as being not slightly less warm, but a little bit drier. And then the other year that's certainly been coming up in the conversation is 1977, which was a terrible snow year. Not nearly as warm as this year, but even drier. And then you see 1904 there as part of that drought around the turn of the 20th century. But we see, for recent memory, these years of 2018 and 1981 for the last 3 plus months really stand out up there on the quadrant chart. Just a few of the notable events back in January. We did have, it was mostly a warm month, but we had a pretty robust cold outbreak around the 24th through the 26th. Uh, Southeast Colorado had some very cold conditions during that event with record lows, daily record lows down in the single digits to teens below zero. Some real cold readings up in the mountains as well, with some -20s there. But again, this is kind of in the context of just how warm it's been over the last couple of years, and well, and more years than that. But this is taken from the NOAA rankings page, and so it shows where the 1 month of January ranks, and then the 2 month period of December to January ranks against all the December January periods historically, and so on. And so what we can see is all the time periods from 3 months to 24 months are the first warmest, the warmest on record for that, whatever that particular period is ending in January. So just a long string so January itself was not record warm, and December, January, I think was just a touch behind 1981, and then all the other periods you see here were warmest on record. And February is going to be a much warmer than average month as well. So we'll see where all these numbers shake out once February is done. And if we look back we'll look more closely at the precipitation, recent precipitation coming up. But again, there are parts of the state that if we look back now over the last 12 months or the last 360 days, basically the last year, this is standardized precipitation index. So you think of this as how unusually wet or dry it's been. And you see this large area of Western Colorado and, the central mountains up into the northern mountains, near record dry, very, very, very dry over the last year. So the end of last snow accumulation season, like February through April last year, was quite dry. We know the summer was extremely dry there with all the wildfires. Got a little bit of a reprieve in the fall, and then it's been dry mostly since then. Um, you can contrast that with the southern mountains where there was all that rain in October. Don't look quite so bad. Eastern Plains had a nice wet fall, and so the numbers there don't look quite so bad. Or some areas that have even been above average precipitation for the last year. But obviously, these conditions in Western Colorado really stand out. Okay, so where are we at for February? So this is month to date February precipitation through yesterday morning. So this includes the effects of the big snowstorm, especially in the central and southern mountains that happened over the weekend or late last week into the weekend. So some spots there with 4+ inches of liquid for the month thus far at the high elevations, and then pretty decent amounts at the lower elevations there as well. Northern Front Range, Northeast Plains have been very dry in February. There was the storm, early last week that went through parts of southeastern Colorado, and they got some decent rain slash snow in those areas. But other than that, the Eastern Plains have been pretty dry this month, and this is what that looks like as a percent of average. So parts of Southwest Colorado are actually above average for the month after for precipitation after the big storm cycle in the last week or so. So that's nice to see. We haven't seen a lot of that since October. But you see up in the further north you go, the snow amounts were lower from the event over the weekend, and so still below average for February in most of those places. Front Range very dry. Again, the average for February is not that much. So, but still having very little, it's been very little precipitation along the Front Range. There's that swath that had the storm that brought some decent totals for parts of eastern Colorado, and then the far southeast corner has been very dry as well. Here's temperature for February thus far. Again, like on these graphs, they rescale it to what the bigger anomalies are. So having another month where we have a big areas with 9 degrees above average or more. This is not typical. Those are big anomalies. So you can see, especially northwestern Colorado, the lower elevations in northwestern Colorado have been had snow on the ground very little this winter, and the snow on the ground really drives the temperature there. So if there's no snow on the ground at those lower elevations, it tends to get much warmer than average, whereas the snow will keep those temperatures down. And then statewide, most of the rest of eastern Colorado, 6 to 9 degrees above average. Not quite as much above average in the Southwest, but still warm. And then we've got this, the rest of February, the last few days of February are going to be very warm across most of the state to close out the month. This graph is just kind of mind-boggling that we've been updating this because we keep adding to this tally. This is for Fort Collins. Number of days with the high temperature of 60 or higher for December through February. You see all there are years where you get 15 or 20 60-degree days. It's not that unusual. And then there's this year where we now have 38 as of yesterday. Today we'll make 39. The forecast has the last 5 days of February being 60 or above. So this will just be, way above. It's already way above any other year. And this bar for this year is just going to keep going up for the last few days of February here in this next warm snap. So kind of ridiculous, the conditions we've seen here on the Northern Front Range for this winter. The other big event recently was the wind last week on the 17th and 18th. Tragic event on I-25 near Pueblo with the heavy winds and blowing dust. 5 people killed in that big pileup. And you can see, like on the 17th, the wind, these are the max winds from those 2 days. So, like the Pueblo airport gusted to 70, pretty much around the same time that this incident occurred. 79 in Colorado Springs, some 80s in the mountains, 70 even at Yellow Jack, 72 at Yellow Jacket. So those days were very windy. Okay, so let's take a look now. We'll transition to take a look at the drought conditions and where that stands. This is not a recent picture. This is an old picture. If you read our blog post from a week or two ago about comparing the snow drought this year to these snow droughts in the late 70s, early 80s, this is a picture that I have on my desk in some slides from Nolan. This is from January 1981, coming in towards Dillon, and also that year there was really no snow on the ground in the middle of winter. Okay, here's National Drought Monitor. Won't spend too much time on this, but you can see Western Colorado, especially among the worst drought conditions in the country at this point. And then zooming in to Colorado here, we can see those pockets of D4, exceptional drought, the worst category there. And these are, a combination of places that have been real low on snow this winter and also have big deficits going back to last summer or to even to last winter and spring, and then a pretty big area. So more than 9% of the state in D3 or worse, extreme drought. Most of southeastern Colorado is still drought free. With last summer was pretty decent, and then they have actually had some storms come through this winter, but the Front Range and northeastern plains not so much. And this is the change over the last month since the last WCMC meeting. All degradations here, unchanged. So the grays are unchanged here. The yellows are where it's gone down one category over the last month, a little pocket in the Northwest where it's gone down two categories in the last month. So, we've talked about the temperature being so much above average. And we all experience that. And one other way to reflect that is through the evaporative demand drought index. So this doesn't actually take into account the precipitation that's falling. This is just the evaporative demand, the thirst for water from the air. And so where you see these dark brown colors, that's where it's like the second percentile or lower, among the worst years on record for evaporative demand for the last 3 months. So again, the winter, basically the winter season, and much of Northeast Colorado, also Nebraska, Wyoming, in these seen really high evaporative demand, and it's almost all driven by the unusually high temperatures over that time period. And there hasn't been much precipitation in those areas either, so we can see that the things are drying out. Again, it's not the wet time of year for the Northeast Plains, but this doesn't help to have it be so warm. Okay, so where are we headed? We'll take a look at the outlook here. There's probably not. This is an old picture from Loveland. It's probably not that much snow there right now. So in the near term, today is going to have the potential for critical fire weather. So the pink outlines here are where there's a red flag warning for today. It's also going to be windy. I think today the strongest winds are mostly going to be confined to the foothills. Tomorrow it's going to be windy almost everywhere. It's obviously warm and dry, very warm. It's going to be very warm today. So, don't start any fires. They've got to be paying attention to these fire weather concerns for the next few days. And you can see it, I mentioned potential for elevated to critical fire weather Wednesday through Friday. So today is the start of it, but it will persist through the rest of the week. Here's the 7-day precipitation outlook. the northern mountains are there's kind of the jet streams coming in pretty strong from the west, and that'll be good to bring some good moisture into the northern mountains. So it looks like a pretty decent snowstorm for for the Park Range, for parts of the Front Range over the next 2 days. But what happens when the jet stream comes in strong like that and dumps a lot of snow in the mountains is then that air sinks on the other side, and that's where we get the warmth and the wind over here on the Front Range. And then the rest of the state mostly dry over the next 7 days. And this is what that looks like as a difference from average. So again, this will be a good storm for the northern mountains, but really nothing. Southern mountains got the most snow from this most recent storm, but they're not going to benefit much from this one. And then again, mostly dry to the east over the next 7 days. And here's how that breaks out day by day. Not too much else to show here, but potential for another snow Sunday or another storm Sunday, Monday. A little too early to look at details there, but that one it's at least worth keeping an eye out on that period for what may happen Sunday, Monday. Um, just real quickly on temperature, I'm not going to belabor the graph here, but basically it's going to be much warmer than average for the rest of the week, especially with the exception of Northwest Colorado. And it looks like there's not much like real cold in the outlook beyond that. Precipitation chances on the eastern plains do start to look like they start to pick up, at least like no guarantees or anything there, but at least there's like models that have some precipitation on the eastern plains after the start of the new month, and continuing for the first couple weeks of March. So we can keep our fingers crossed for that at least we may see some precipitation. But we'll have to wait and see on that. That's still quite a ways out. And so I think this shows that pretty well. This is the 8 to 14 days. So this is the period from March 3rd through the 9th. Again, high confidence in warmer than average conditions for that period across Colorado and most of the continental US. A tilt towards wetter than average conditions across much of Colorado for that period. Not as strong of a signal. But again, the models are at least hinting that there's going to be precipitation chances fairly regularly as we get into that first couple of weeks of March. Too early to say whether it'll be very meaningful, but at least there will be chances. And we can summarize that here as well. So basically, this is from an ensemble of 50 different model forecasts. How many of those 50 are at least a tenth of an inch below average on the left, close to average in the middle, above average on the right? So you can see the northern mountains look like they will do okay over the next couple of weeks. So we've got this storm coming in the next couple of days that will favor the northern mountains, and then maybe a couple more of those, but they will not get to the southern mountains. So that high probability of below average conditions for the southern mountains over the next 2 weeks, but not too bad for the northern mountains. Eastern plains is hard to say. Maybe the bet is near average over this time period, but again, that at least means there's some chances for precipitation there. Okay, let's look out further out into what may come in the spring and into the summer. These are the probabilities of the La Nina neutral El Nino category. So if you see blue, so we're still in La Nina conditions right now, but the consensus is that La Nina is on its way out and most likely will be in neutral conditions through the spring and early summer. That's the gray bars here with probabilities of 90% being neutral in the spring into early summer. And then beyond that, maybe El Nino for later in the year, or maybe it stays neutral. Does not look like there will be another La Nina, so that's good news. But also these forecasts get much better once you get past April. The predictability of El Nino, La Nina kind of flips around April to being not all that skillful at this time of the winter to being pretty skillful. So, by the time of the April meeting, there should be some more confidence in this. But here's the summary at the bottom. Transition from La Nina to neutral expected over the next couple months, with neutral persisting through the summer, and then possibly El Nino beyond that, but we'll have to see. Okay, so what do the outlooks from NOAA look like? These came out last week. This is for just March for temperature. I put the pin there at Lamar. As you can see, the pie chart for temperature there. Increased odds of warmer than average temperature, decreased odds of below average temperature. So a warmer than average March is fairly high confidence in that, especially in southeastern Colorado. Here is for precipitation. Not as much signal there, but a tilt towards drier than average March being likely in southwestern Colorado, and a very slight tilt for towards drier than average for the rest of the state. But this is not a very there's not this I wouldn't put a lot of it's not a real strong signal for March. It would be much nicer though if it had high confidence of wet, and that's not what we're seeing. And then here's for the spring as a whole. So now I put the dot at Mancos there. So pretty high confidence in warmer than average spring, especially the farther south and west you go in the state. And pretty high confidence in a drier than average spring, again, more so the farther south and west you go in the state. So this is not we might hope for a miracle March or some miracle this spring, and at least based on these outlooks, that's not looking like what's there. Again, these forecasts are the skill of these forecasts is always limited at the seasonal scale, but it's not what we would like to see for the spring season, given how warm and dry it's been for the last several months. This is the wildfire potential outlook for March, and obviously we've already seen some fires in February on the Eastern Plains. Assuming the warm and dry conditions continue, that risk is going to be there into March as well. It's going to be there the next few days, as we mentioned. It's going to likely be there into March in southeastern Colorado and really much of the Great Plains. We saw last week big fires in Oklahoma and Kansas. So I think that's something that we'll have to pay a lot of attention to there. And we tend not to put a lot of weight on these NOAA seasonal drought outlooks because it's a little bit opaque as to how they put it together. But it's not a great sign when all the parts of the state that are not currently in drought are projected to be in drought by the end of spring. And that aligns with the seasonal outlooks of warmer tilted towards warmer and drier than average. Okay, so to wrap up, takeaways. Water year 26 so far has been exceptionally warm across Colorado, record warm by a large margin. Um, since the big rainfall and flood in October in southwestern Colorado, precipitation's been below average in most parts of the state, with a few exceptions. The mountain snowstorm last week was helpful, but we're still way behind, and we'll hear more about that coming up from Nagam. We're in another period of very warm weather, at least through the end of February and possibly beyond, with the exception of the northern mountains, which will be getting a decent snowstorm this week. La Nina is on its way out, with ENSO neutral conditions expected through spring and early summer. And I think the key takeaway is, we're already in drought conditions in much of the state. The winter's been very warm and dry. The outlook is not very favorable through the spring. So I think we have to, be prepared for significant drought impacts, which includes reduced water supplies, considering the snowpack situation, and increased wildfire risk, at least through the spring on the Eastern Plains, in the coming months and possibly beyond, but a little too early to say about that. So That is what I have. There is our my contact info, our website, how you can get updates in your email inbox. And sorry, I wish I had better news, but that's where we're at. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Russ. I see Angela's hand up. Go for it, Angela.
Thanks. Thanks, Jess. I'm just curious if you have any perspective on, within the climatological community, what the conversations are around the anomalous warmth across the West this year. I mean, obviously, background climate change signal, but just curious if there are broader climatological dynamics that are being discussed.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and we've been getting that question quite a bit. And my answer has been, I think that will be a very interesting research topic to try and figure that out. But I'm not sure that we have a good answer for it yet. I mean, La Nina is a piece of the story for sure. The La Nina winters tend to be warm and dry in the southwestern U.S., but they tend to be okay for like our northern mountains, and we obviously haven't seen that. So yeah, so I mean, I think that yeah, La Nina is a part of the story. Climate change is part of the story. There's probably more to it than that, though, and I think those will be interesting questions to try and sort out among the climate dynamics folks.
Thanks.
Hey Russ, this is Kevin Hauk.
Hey,
That was a
Kevin.
great presentation as always. I want to ask you about that slide that had the 3 to 24 month
Uh-huh.
statistics, which I thought was a very compelling statement to make. Um, did you go beyond 24 months? Like, does the record warmth kind of end at that period, or is it just that you didn't go farther than that, and maybe it continues on even beyond that?
Let me bring that back up. Yeah, well, this is 24 months is what they show on the website where I grabbed this. I mean, obviously the last 20 years, last 40 years have been warming and pretty steadily. So it probably goes back beyond 24. Although like 2023 was a not, it was warmer than average, but not like it was a cool year by recent standards. So it probably does end somewhere in that, at least being record warm probably ends when you go back to 2023.
Well, th this is just an astounding statistic right here, and I guess I didn't realize it was this bad, but that's certainly unsettling.
Yep, agreed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. I do have one question, and it might lead well into the NRCS presentation, but how does snowpack um, get incorporated into the US Drought Monitor? I've heard that it's kind of like a lagging indicator, but I just wanted to um, get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it when we're, preparing the recommendations each week for the drought monitor for Colorado. We are like, we're looking at it at this time of year. That's probably the most important thing that we're looking at is snowpack, the combination of snowpack and then water year to date precipitation, which usually align reasonably well, but this year they are rather out of sync because there was so much rain back in the fall, but not snow, and then the snow has not been there obviously for the last uh, several months. But yeah, it's especially at this time of year, it's probably the most important thing that we're looking at. Obviously, it changes when you're early in the season or late in the season. Then it may or may not be a relevant indicator. But yeah, it's a big one.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks, Russ. Any other questions for Russ can go in
Oh,
the
good. Thanks,
chat.
Becky. Becky
Oh,
answered the rest of Kevin's question there. So thanks, Becky.
oh, awesome. Yep. Thanks, Becky. All right, Russ, thanks again for your presentation. And again, any other questions for him can go in the chat. We are going to move on to our presentation from NRCS. So I believe that will be Nagam.
Right, yeah, thank you, Emily. Thanks, Russ. Okay. Oh, I gotta share my screen. Sorry, it's been a minute. Okay, can you see my screen, Emily?
I am seeing the Zoom.
Okay, let me know when you see the PowerPoint.
I'm still seeing
Oh,
the Zoom.
my goodness. Okay. Sorry. What did I do wrong?
Now I'm looking at myself.
Sorry. There we go. Better?
Yes. Yep, we see it.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. I'll introduce myself. It's been a minute since I've presented at one of these meetings. I'm Nagam Bella, hydrologist with the Colorado Data Collection Office at the NRCS. Our team is out in the field getting measurements for the March 1st streamflow for the forecast. So Brian DeMoncos, who normally presents, is not here today, but I'll be presenting on our behalf. And just an overview, our office monitors mountain snowpack and precipitation. We also have the forecasting team. They publish forecasts at the first of every month, January through May. June, May. Okay, so getting right into it. Statewide conditions as of February 23rd, water year-to-date precipitation is at 82% of median. This time last year was at 95%. The graph on the right is our current snowpack, and that was as of February 22nd, so it captures the February storm cycle. I'll get into that in a few slides, but overall, most basins benefited, or all basins benefited from that storm, with the southwest corner seeing the highest increase. So current SWE is at 63% of median. For reference, this time, but in 1981, SWE was at 47% of median, so that is the record low as of now. And then short-term precipitation, 30-day precipitation is at 84% of median, 114 this time last year. 60-day is at 78%, 108 for this time last year. 90-day, 80%, 97 last year. February 1st, 50% exceedance streamflow forecasts are at 61% of normal, and that's for the primary period. So it's well below median. January end of month reservoir storage is at 86% of median. So kind of our stable indicator right now. And then soil moisture is also looking better than other data sets here. So 20-inch soil moisture is reading at 103% of median. 8-inch is also near normal at 99%. Okay, so getting right into snowpack here. So I have a side-by-side comparison here. Okay, so on the left, we have our current snowpack, which captures the two February storms that came in on the 12th and the 18th. And then this is pre-storm on the right. So we can see the southern basins saw the highest gains down there, with the southwest corner having the highest increase from 44% to 65%. The Upper Rio Grande 46 to 59, Arkansas 42 to 51. So that's great for the southern half of the state. Other basins, northern and central basins, also benefited, just not as much because they weren't in such dire states before the storm, or I mean they are still, but not nearly as bad in the red category, that less than 50% pre-storm. So now we're seeing all basins in that 50 to 69% range. Still not great, well below median, but better, improving. So the gain was from 53 to 63%. Okay, and this is a graph showing the amount of snow water equivalent from those storms. So from the first storm in February, we gained about about 7/10 of an inch of SWE, and then the second half, the most recent storm, 1.32 inches. So overall, Wolf Creek's, the southern half of the state, saw the most. So Wolf Creek Summit saw around 5.4 inches, which is great. And then the rest of the state, kind of fair gains, closer to in the 1 inch, 2 inch category. And I believe overall we gained statewide, it was around 2 inches of SWE. Okay, now this is our departure from normal SWE. So if we look back down in the southern half of the state, we can see some of the greater departures are also at Wolf Creek Summit and Upper San Juan, which is right next to Wolf Creek Summit. So that's 9.9 inches roughly departure from normal. And it's kind of a mixed bag throughout. We have, some big departures up in the northern half too. I'm seeing 6.8 and 6.2, but again, the largest deficits are down in the southwest corner, Upper Rio Grande, Arkansas. Okay, so this is one of our graphs from our AWS graph for snow water equivalent for the state of Colorado. So currently, SWE is at 7.6 inches. Median for this state is 12.1, so well below that, obviously. And then I plotted some similar years. So we're tracking closely to 2002. So we're just below, or that 2002 is at 7.7 inches, so just below that. Overall, 63% of median. We have 45 days left till median peak, which is here around like early April 8th-ish. Okay. This graph, this analysis was done by Brian DeMoncos. He's in the field today. I think he's joining on the call, so if but I'll speak to this on his behalf for now. So Brian plotted our current year compared to some historically low years, with 1981 being the lowest. So that 1981 is this light brown color here. We can see it does fall below our current red line here, which is our current water year. And then 2002, we are tracking right up against that. Average median is this dashed line right here. So significantly below at a median, but not the lowest yet. So, okay, and then this is some more analysis that Brian did, but this includes snowpack summary graph and table for snow course data, so about 31 sites. On the graph here on the left, our current year is this line going to March 1st, the dark blue line. So trending above 1981 still here, obviously. And so that puts us ranks us at 45 out of 46 years, which leaves us in the second percentile. And again at 7.6 inches. So Brian, some notes from Brian. So according to SNOTEL data, since February 11th, Colorado received 2 inches of SWE. So for the entire state of Colorado, the annual total is less than 2002 and above 1981 by 1.8 inches of water. And you can reference this table here. Adding 2 inches of water to the February 1 snow course data, state data, and projecting forward, 2 inches is what we've roughly gained so far. And then with no additional accumulation through March 1st as a baseline, that'll leave Colorado 0.1 inches of SWE below 2002 on March 1. And then if we get more accumulation, which it looks like we are going to, at least for the northern mountains, then we'll be tied or above 2002 and 1.6 inches above 77 and 81, which were both tied at 4.3 inches of water on March 1st. Okay, so these are, I went ahead and we'll go through the SWE graphs for each basin here. So this is for the southwest corner, which is the San Miguel, Dolores, Animas, and San Juan. It is currently at 65% of median with 39 days left until peak SWE. Current year is that black line right here, which is at 9.3 and sitting above 2015 and 2000, but trending pretty closely. And that ranks the southwest corner at the 7th lowest out of the 40-year record, with 1990, 2002, 2006, 2018, 2000, and 2015 below our current year. Okay, in the upper Rio Grande, SWE is at 5.9 inches here, trending closely to water years 2002 and 2018. 2002 is at 5.8 inches, 2018, 6. This basin's at 59% of median and has roughly 40 days until median peak and sits in the 10th percentile. Okay, and our current year ranks as the 5th lowest out of a 40-year record, with the lower years being 2006, 2000, 2002, 1990. Okay. In the Arkansas, this is the currently ranked as the lowest, sitting at 51% of median. So in the 0 percentile, unfortunately, with 4.4 inches of SWE currently, and the median for this basin's at 8.6. So well below that. Previous minimum was 2018 at 4.9. And here's a comparison for the 35-year record for the Arkansas. In the Gunnison, it is the 3rd lowest out of the 46-year record, and it is at 68% of median in the 4th percentile with 8 inches of snow water equivalent. Median for this basin's 11.8. Similar years are 2018, and the low is 1981, at 6.3 inches. Okay, in the headwaters, Colorado headwaters, this is the lowest in the 41-year record. It is at 61% of median with 49 days until median peak at the 0 percentile with 8 inches of SWE. Median for this basin is 11.8 inches. The minimum previously, let me see here, 6.3. Okay, I think I must have messed up on that. So the minimum, okay. I must have made a mistake here, but anyways, this one is 8 inches of SWE, and I do believe it's the lowest on the. I have to double check my work on this one. Sorry, guys. Okay, for the Yampa white little snake, also the lowest in the 41-year record. No, okay, I'm seeing my mistake. I'm so sorry, guys. So 1981 had 6.3 inches. It's the second lowest. And currently we're at 8 inches. Okay, and it has 67%, it's at 67% of median with 45 days until peak. It's in the 0 percentile. Apologies for that, guys. All right, in the South Platte, this is the third lowest out of the 46-year record. It's at 60% of median days until median peaks, 62 days, and this is in the 5th percentile. We are at 6.1 inches in the South Platte for SWE, medians at 10.2. Minimum year is 1981. We're at 5.6 inches of SWE there. Okay, in the Laramie and North Platte, this ranks as the second lowest out of a 40-year record, and is at 69% of median and the 3rd percentile, and is at 6.1 inches of SWE compared to 10.2 median, and the minimum here is also 1981 at 5.6 inches of SWE. Okay, here is a graph for snow water equivalent projection for the state of Colorado. So we're here, and then these are various max, median, and minimum projections. So even at the 50%, which is 11.1 inches of SWE, that's still significantly below median peak. And even the max projection at 14.5 sits below that median. So I guess the takeaway point here is that even with near normal conditions moving forward, reaching that median is historically not happened. So, and we would need well above normal conditions to happen to reach that median, like above that max projection. Okay, getting into precipitation, water year to date, we are at 82% of median. The southern half or southwest corner of the state is seeing the highest numbers. So in the San Miguel, Dolores, San Juan, we're at 102, the Gunnison 91, Upper Rio Grande 93. The rest of the state is in that 70 to 81% category. The South Platte 69%. For short-term precipitation, 90-day, which dates from November 25th to current, is at 80%, and that 60-day is at 78%. So that reflects the early season storms that we received in the form of rain, which caused flooding, and has certainly boosted our water year-to-date numbers. 30-day precipitation is also improved, with the Gunnison at 98, southwest corner at 103, Upper Rio Grande 101, South Platte lagging at 68%. But again, the bottom half of the state received much of the increase, or received more gains from this recent storm than compared to other basins. Okay, so getting into stream flow and how all of that all of what we just saw, how that impacts stream flow. So February 1st, stream flow forecast 50% exceedance is at 61% of median. And this has decreased from January, just based on, just because of drier conditions, but boosted still with, with a recent storm activity. And overall, we're in that 50 to 65% range, with the South Platte being the exception at 76%. But overall, all points are well below median. And we can see that here. These are the forecast exceedance probability charts. I'll go through them for some of the basins, but mainly what I wanted to highlight here is that we're well below median forecast volumes, unfortunately, at many points and out of range. And then also to consider, the full suite of probabilities as well, with 70 and 90, 95% being drier conditions, and 30 and 10 and 5 being wetter. So with the outlooks that Russ highlighted, there's a good chance that we could be leaning towards the drier, although uncertain. But here you can consider that full suite. And then I've highlighted the normals here, just to show exactly where the current range sits compared to that normal. So for the Colorado headwaters, most points are out of normal range, with exception of a few being in that upper 5% category, which is, we would need extremely wet conditions to achieve those numbers. Yampa White Little Snake Basin here on the right, similar story. With the forecast exceedance probability range are below normal, and just a reminder to consider drier conditions as we move forward into the season. Okay, so here we have the Gunnison on the left, and then the San Miguel, Dolores, San Luis, San Juan on the right. Similar pattern as the two basins I just showed. Forecasts are well below median, with the exception of a few here. The higher higher volume forecast points are also, well out of that normal range. This is the Laramie North and North Platte. Median volumes are at 100 and 123 acre feet. And just mainly want to highlight here to consider the full range of probabilities. Okay, some of the basins had a few too many points, so I just went ahead and grabbed the highest output points. So in the Rio Grande near Del Norte, in the Rio Grande Basin, the median forecast, the 50% forecast is at 290,000 acre feet. The median, the 30-year median is at 480. So this is just a nice comparison to see how things have evolved over the season, and then you can get a good visual of how well below median we are here. And even the high is below that 30-year median point. Okay, similarly in the Arkansas Basin, I've pulled these 2 points, the Arkansas River at Salida on the top. The 50% exceedance probability forecast is at 180,000 acre feet. The 30-year median is 265,000. And then below is the Pueblo Reservoir inflow. And again, highlights the high, median, low probabilities, median being 260,000 compared to 395,000 acre feet for the 30-year median. And lastly, this is for the cache with Pooter at Canyon Mouth. For the February 1, the 50% exceedance probability is at 205. This one's closer to normal. The 30-year median's at 240,000 acre feet. So that's refreshing to see. And then, yeah, the suite, the higher range exceeds normal there. So this is the one basin that's the exception, as we saw on the interactive map. That South Platte has some points that are closer to normal compared to the rest of the state. Okay, getting into reservoirs. For the end of January, reservoirs are sitting at 86% of median. So this is lower compared to this time last year. Overall, the larger basins are, as far as storage, are lower compared to this time last year. McPhee, Blue Mesa, Pueblo is above median. I think it's slightly below last year, but it's above median. So the Arkansas is at 100%, which is good to see. And the Colorado headwaters, Dillon and Granby, are close to normal, but still below last year. Okay, so in summary, the February storm cycle has reduced statewide SWE deficits, but has not eliminated them, obviously. SWE is at 63% of median. Water year 26 currently ranks 45th out of 46 years in the period record for SWE, with only water year 1981 having lower values. Median SWE for today is 12.1 inches, current SWE's 7.6. Water year-to-date precipitation is at 82% of median. Recent storms have improved short-term conditions across all basins, but cumulative totals remain below normal. Southern basins continue to show the largest departures for median, despite our recent accumulations. February 1 streamflow forecasts project well below median runoff in most basins, which are around that 55 to 65% range, with the exception of the South Platte. Much of the forecast probability distribution falls below the 30-year median. Also, median runoff outcomes are conditional, so on near normal accumulation for the remainder of the season. So yeah, just consider that full suite of probabilities. Soil moisture remains near normal and provides some buffering entering into peak accumulation season. And those are sitting near normal at 103, 99, and 99% a median. Reservoir storage is not too far below normal at 86%. That said, most larger reservoirs have lower storage compared to this time last year. And then meaningful recovery to near median conditions would require sustained above normal precipitation through March and early April. That is all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Great. Thanks, Nagam. Nathan, do you have a question?
Yeah, on the streamflow forecast, so we're pretty early in the season. How much relative influence does future weather versus current conditions have on those, and how does that progress as we get through the season?
Yeah, future weather is definitely the biggest unknown, and there's still a decent amount of winter to be had here. So that will definitely impact, upcoming forecasts here for like March 1st, April 1st, May 1st. And then as the season progresses, the error in those forecasts also decreases too. So January being like having the highest error, and then as we get more inputs, that kind of tightens up. Yeah.
Thanks.
I have a question just about soil moisture, which I know wasn't touched on too much, but do you think that the high soil moisture levels or like near normal is because of snow melt at higher levels? I guess what can you attribute that high soil moisture to?
The mainly, I held off on showing them because I felt like I had too many. So maybe for
Yeah,
the
no
next
worries about that.
presentation,
Yeah, no, it's
we
okay.
have them for each basin. But I did look at them, and you can see that like the early season storms had a big impact in soil and moisture, and so that's really the driving force there. As far as melts, I don't know that we've seen too much of that as a big contributor at the moment. I mean, I think it might be happening a little bit, but I think the primary driver was the early season storms that fell where precipitation fell as rain.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Nagam? All right, well, if any pop up, just feel free to put them in the chat. Thank you, Nagam. Thank you, Russ, for your presentations. I think we will now move on to updates from you all on the call. Any water providers, utilities, water managers on the call. We'd love to hear what conditions are looking like near you. If you're thinking about drought watches, drought restrictions as well. So feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat.
Nathan Miller, Denver Water. So the Snowtails we monitor in our Colorado River collection system, those are 56% of normal. That's second worst that we've seen, with 1981 being the worst. And then the ones we monitor in the South Platte, those are 47% of normal, and that is the worst for that set of Snowtails above our collection system. Our storage is 80% full. Normally we'd be about 86% full this time of year. And right now our storage projections for the summer aren't looking great. Somewhere between given those NRCS stream flow forecasts, low end peak storage of 74% full. Our most probable is 86% full, and then a high end of 94% full. So pretty low probability of reaching full reservoirs this year. We're There'll be some level of restrictions, I anticipate. It is our board's decision, and we're really just trying to wait until we get a little bit more information, get those Marsh stream flow forecasts, and is it going to be a drought watch or is it going to be mandatory restrictions in a stage one, and just weighing those decisions.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, being in the company of the years 1981 and 2002 are not awesome company to have. But thank you for the update.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, I'm Walter. I'm with Highlands Ranch Water. Just letting, I guess, everyone know that we have currently not began, but we're going to be informing our customers that we're going to be on a drought watch beginning on March 1st. Just kind of informing the public our water situation, just more to make awareness of like wise water practices moving forward. And that's kind of it right now. Like right now, our reservoir levels are about 60% full. We're a little bit on the lower side, but not where we would like to be. And just kind of preparing for this coming season, hoping for the best, but we can do what we can do. That's all.
Hey,
Thank
Walter,
you.
Drew Beckwith, City of Westminster. Just following up, is that a voluntary educational sort of first stage of drought for you all, or is it mandatory and you might fine?
As of right now, it is just voluntary.
Yeah.
It's issued by the board. We're just informing the public
Yep.
to redirect and be like, hey, just letting you guys know it's a possibility.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Great. Yeah, nope. Yeah. Thanks, Walter.
All right. Have a good day.
Yep, you too. Anyone else? I know we're a big group today. Hey, John.
Hello, everybody. Thornton Storage, we're in real good shape for this time of year, at over 83%. We've been higher, but we're okay there. Production from the treatment plants is a little bit over or 3% under last year, which is good. And consumption is 2.70 below last year. We've been in drought watch, it seems like forever. The Russ showed some slides. It's just been very dry the last year. We had a good March and April in our watersheds last year. Okay, March and April, and that's kept our storage up. And we're currently meeting and trying to decide on what we will do this season. The stream flow forecasts, as Nathan said, are alarming. And I'm not expecting them to improve. I think Clear Creek at Golden, I believe, at the 70% exceedance level dropped 14,000 acre feet between January and February with the NRCS forecast. So who knows? Dry year.
Yep, that's an understatement. Thanks, John.
Hi, I'm Beverly Richards with the Upper Gunnison. Our snowpack got a little bit of bump from the last storm. We went from 68%, 0 percentile to 71% in the 3rd percentile. So we're still really low this year. Our storage in the upper basin, which is Taylor Reservoir and Blue Mesa, is at 53%. And we are waiting patiently to hear whether or not there will be releases out of Blue Mesa for Lake Powell. But we have not heard yet. Hopefully we'll hear within the next couple of weeks. But Blue Mesa is at 50%. So we're really concerned about that. And we are working on an educational outreach for drought response in the basin. And that's in process. Hopefully we'll have that in place in the next month or so.
Great. Thank you for the update, Beverly.
Sure.
Anyone else? All right. Well, hearing none, thank you all for being on the call today. Oh, we have an update from Alice. Thank you. Fort Collins is watching conditions, but we'll wait until Northern Water issues CBT quota. Okay, cool. Thank you for that update, Alice. Great. Well, conditions are not great. So I think we're all kind of in the same boat together, wishing for a little bit of help from Mother Nature. So I wish we had better news, but thank you again from Russ and Nagam for your presentations. The recording for this meeting plus their presentations will be on the WCMC website by the end of this month, hopefully in the next day or two. But our next meeting will be on March 17th. So I'll be sending correspondence out ahead of time, but thank you again for your time today and have a great rest of your day.